The hospital was unusually quiet that night, the kind of stillness that seemed to hold its breath. The soft hum of machines and the occasional beeping of monitors filled the air, blending with the faint scent of antiseptic. Nurse Evelyn moved through the dimly lit corridors with a calm, measured pace, her white shoes barely making a sound against the polished floor. Among her colleagues, she carried a reputation, one never openly discussed, but whispered in hushed tones during coffee breaks and late-night charting sessions. They said she could sense when a patient's time was near. It wasn't something she announced or admitted to, it was in the way she lingered a little longer by certain bedsides, her hand resting gently on a frail arm, her eyes holding a softness that spoke more than words ever could. To Evelyn, it wasn't superstition or mystery, it was a duty. She didn't fear the end of life. She saw it as the most delicate chapter in a person's story, one that deserved as much care as the first breath they'd ever taken. Tonight, as she entered Mr. Harris's room, the air felt different, heavier somehow, yet calm. His breathing was shallow, his face peaceful under the warm glow of the bedside lamp. Evelyn pulled up a chair, took his hand, and began to speak softly, not about illness or pain, but about the little things that brought him joy, his garden, the smell of rain, the smile of his late wife. She stayed, because she knew. And because he deserved not to be alone. The following afternoon, sunlight streamed faintly through the blinds, casting narrow stripes of gold across the linoleum floor. Evelyn was making her rounds when she noticed a young woman standing awkwardly in the hallway outside room 214. Her eyes were red and swollen, clinging to a crumpled tissue like it was the only thing keeping her steady. Evelyn approached with her usual gentle presence, asking if she was family. The woman nodded, explaining she was Mr. Harris's daughter, Lily, and had just flown in after getting a call from the hospital. Her voice cracked when she admitted she was afraid she might be too late. Without hesitation, Evelyn placed a reassuring hand on Lily's shoulder and led her inside. Mr. Harris lay resting, his chest rising and falling slowly. The beeping of the monitor was steady but faint. Lily froze in the doorway, unsure how to bridge the years of distance between them. Evelyn knelt by the bed, whispering something softly in Mr. Harris's ear. His eyelids fluttered open, and when they met his daughter's eyes, they filled with recognition. Stepping back, Evelyn let Lily take her place at his side. She knew the weight of moments like these, how fragile and irreplaceable they were. Lily began talking, stumbling over her words at first, then letting the memories pour out. Evelyn stayed quietly by the door, giving them space but ready to step in if needed. She understood this was not just about medicine, it was about giving a father and daughter the time they'd been denied, before time slipped away for good. Later that night, the hospital corridors were dim and hushed, the distant hum of machines blending with the faint smell of antiseptic. Evelyn sat in the nurse's station, charting notes, when she felt it, that quiet, inexplicable pull that told her someone needed her. She rose without a word and made her way toward room 307. Inside, an elderly woman named Mrs. Klein lay awake, her frail hands twisting the blanket. Her breathing was shallow, and her gaze was fixed on the ceiling as though she were searching for something far away. Evelyn pulled up a chair and sat beside her, gently taking her hand. Mrs. Klein's voice was barely more than a whisper. She said she was afraid, not of dying, but of being forgotten. She had no children, no close family left, only a few neighbors who might notice when she was gone. Evelyn's heart tightened. She listened, letting the woman's words spill out, offering no platitudes, only presence. Then Evelyn did something she rarely spoke of, she asked Mrs. Klein about the happiest day of her life. Slowly, a smile broke through the fear, and the woman began telling stories of dancing in the rain with her first love, of baking pies in a tiny kitchen that always smelled like cinnamon. Evelyn encouraged her, weaving gentle questions that kept the memories flowing. As Mrs. Klein's voice grew weaker, Evelyn leaned closer and whispered, "I'll remember for you." For the first time that night, Mrs. Klein's eyes closed in peace, the lines in her face softening, as if the weight of being forgotten had finally lifted. The following evening, a storm rattled the hospital windows, rain streaking the glass like 1,000 racing tears. Evelyn moved through the dimly lit ward with a small bouquet of wildflowers she'd picked on her walk to work. She stopped outside room 212, where Mr. Thompson, a retired schoolteacher, lay propped up against pillows, his once strong frame now frail and thin. His breathing was labored, and the faint rattle in his chest told Evelyn what the monitors hadn't yet recorded. Mr. Thompson greeted her with a weak smile. "Didn't think you'd come tonight," he rasped. Evelyn sat by his bed and placed the flowers on the table where he could see them. He told her about his students, how he'd always kept a jar of candy in his desk for the ones who did well in class, and how some came back years later to thank him. But then his voice trembled, and he admitted that he never married, never had children, and wondered aloud if he'd truly made any difference in the world. Evelyn reached into her bag and pulled out a small stack of letters she had gathered from some of his former students after tracking them down. She had read each one, filled with memories of his kindness, encouragement, and belief in them when no one else had. As she read them aloud, tears slipped down Mr. Thompson's cheeks. His hand trembled as he reached for hers. "Guess I did matter," he whispered, a faint smile settling on his face. And for the rest of the stormy night, they sat in a comfortable silence, the truth of his life's worth filling the room like a warm light. Days later, the ward felt quieter than usual. The late afternoon sun poured through the tall hospital windows, painting the floor in soft gold. Evelyn was finishing her shift when she passed room 208, Mrs. Alvarez's room. The elderly woman had been in the hospital for weeks, her condition worsening despite every treatment. Her family lived hundreds of miles away and hadn't been able to visit, something that weighed heavily on her fragile heart. Evelyn stepped inside, carrying a tray with a small piece of chocolate cake she'd bought from the cafeteria. "For you," she said softly, placing it on the bedside table. Mrs. Alvarez smiled weakly, her eyes glistening. "I haven't had chocolate cake since my husband's last birthday," she murmured. Evelyn sat beside her and pulled out her phone. "Let's fix that loneliness," she said, dialing a number she'd found through the patient's file. Moments later, Mrs. Alvarez's daughter's voice came through the speaker. The reunion over the phone was tearful. They laughed, cried, and promised to see each other soon. As the call ended, Evelyn noticed a calmness in Mrs. Alvarez's expression, a peace that only love and connection could bring. That night, Mrs. Alvarez passed away in her sleep, a faint smile on her lips. Word spread through the ward, and while there was sadness, there was also comfort in knowing she hadn't left feeling forgotten. Standing at the doorway, Evelyn took a deep breath. She had given Mrs. Alvarez more than medical care, she had given her a final gift, the feeling of being loved.